Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice, but here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Paul Bratzlavsky, and Bobby Davis.
Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast where we talk about everything from AI to VR, robots to flying cars, and all that weird stuff in between. So this week I'm joined by Bobby Davis and Paul Bratzlavsky, and I'm Kevin Doyle. And coming up in this week's show, the AI-generated content wave is here, like it or not, and we found a good way to spot at least some of this content. Does social media scatter your brain? And then scientists have developed an AI system focused on turning people's thoughts into text. We'll talk about that in our Skynet Watch segment. And then we'll round it out with a new segment. We're going to call this the Null Not Null segment. This is where we're going to either recommend or recommend that you don't do, watch, see, play with, or something. And we each brought something to the table. So we're going to talk about that at the very end here. So stick around for that. So let's get into our first story here then. The AI-generated content wave is here, and one way you can spot it. So we've talked about this for a while now. I've said this, that AI is going to create a massive amount of junk content, and it's finally kind of starting to play out this way. So while sites with a vast amount of clickbait articles and these things that are SEO optimized, and they're basically just set up to make advertised revenue, right? They've been around for a while. They've been around for a long time, but they've always been human created. So they've been kind of like on the, it still takes a bunch of work to create these things. You still have to write articles, you still have to do a bunch of stuff. There's still a bunch of work in these. But now with AI, we're seeing more and more of these. And it's proven by NewsGuard, an organization that basically rates the trustworthiness of sites. They put out a report. They were able to in a quick search, they found 49 of these sites that are basically just like rehashing content. A lot of times they're taking stuff from an actual site, they're kind of rewording it and putting it up on their own thing and surrounding it with ads, right? We've talked about this a few weeks back. The internet these days is just, it's a giant ad machine, and these sites are here basically just to make money from ads. So they had names like, some of the examples that they showed were Biz Breaking News, News Live 79, Daily Business Post. You may or may not have ran into some of these in like looking around the internet, and you probably wouldn't even know it. So NewsGuard verified the text on these sites. Also, they threw the text through like these AI detection tools, like one like GPT-0, which has actually been proven that it doesn't actually even really work. Right. If you can throw the text through it, right? And it's like, even if it's human written content, it'll say it's AI written content. So it's not 100% like these things aren't like great at detecting AI content. But there is one thing that gives it away, and gives it away every time, and it is the phrase "as an AI language model." So what happens is, if you've messed with ChatGPT, you will know that if you ask it to do something that is incapable of doing or refuses to do, it starts every single one of its responses with, as an AI language model, blah, 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 blah. So if you ask it to give you something about, I don't know, how to hack something, it'll say, as an AI language model, I'm not able to give you information about how to hack that thing. So it always starts with the statement. So what you'll notice is the web's getting flooded with articles that contain as an AI language model, because they're trying to spit this thing through this AI model, and all it's doing is throwing out junk content that it's not actually able to do. So it's not only in these websites, but it's also in social media too. So if you go and search on Twitter for this phrase, you'll see a whole bunch of profiles come up. I did this quick search the other day. I found a couple. They had 3,000 plus followers, and they were spitting out these things. And I was like, wow. And I started looking through their content, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a bot. You can actually start reading into it and realize what the kind of content that they're generating is bot content. But they've managed to amass, the two that I looked at that were really good ones, had over 3,000 followers each. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. So I'm going to come to you first, Bobby. Do you think we're headed down an even bigger AI content tsunami path? Or are there going to be tools that are going to stop this?
I don't know about tools stopping it. I do think there's going to be a human backlash. Maybe the human is the tool that's going to stop it. I think if you're out there and you're a LinkedIn influencer, and say you're the LinkedIn influencer for CEOs. You see all these action type coach people and things like that. And you're generating all your content from AI, and they find out that you're doing it. It just screams that you don't know about the topic. And this is the thing that I neatly from all the hustle bros, the ChatGPT bros, are saying that, hey, we'll start a marketing company, we'll generate all the content, and we'll sign up thousands of clients. But they don't really know anything about marketing. And so usually it's a little bit more sophisticated than that. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a shakeout of unexperienced people trying to automate things to make a quick lure of free money. That's what we talk about a lot, the lure of free money. And then the experienced people will use these tools to great effect. But I think it's more of a generating text and then the editing. The people that just generate text and just turn it loose without ever looking at it will be found out. It's not, it just always comes up and it'll be some other thing that you can detect and everyone will go, wow, that's just like the 30 other articles you wrote. Or, it's the other ones regenerate response. So like sometimes if you're in there coding it up, you type in regenerate response, you're trying to get a new thing and then you just cut and paste that from the article and then you're putting in the commands plus the text in there and it's just like, you can get found out. It's just like people that cut and paste emails where it says, dear user, and it's supposed to like put the person's name in there and you get found out. The moment you do that, you lose your client. And now we're going to do it at a massive scale. So imagine that this marketing agency sends out 30,000 badly worded AI email contacts. They're just not going to, the people are just going to blah, 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 blah. It's just AI generated. Also, if they're really generic, you can read AI stuff all the time. And you're like, oh, that's not even good. In fact, I sent you an article today that wasn't AI generated. And I said, listen to this review of this television and you can read it right away, written by a skilled author. Like that's something that you would engage with. You're like, oh, that's really great. AI would never generate something that good. And that's the difference between it. It's like, it's going to be very bland, not effective, and I think you'll get the human backlash the moment they say it just won't convert. The other thing that I see the other backlash coming back is like if they start generating all these spam sites, and then suddenly your cost per click is going up because there's like a billion websites out there that no one's looking at. It's going to be a problem for Google and anyone selling ads because we've noticed this too. Like we'll get a lot of views of our YouTube ad, and the conversions are like next to zero, which is why we don't run them anymore because it's like just the only one looking at the ads are bots.
Right.
And it's almost like the ad companies want this to happen so they can generate more revenue for their ad networks. And I don't think it's real. And I think that's where the backlash comes from where like, it's not going to buy ads. They don't want to affect. I'm not going to hire this marketing company. Clearly doesn't know anything about marketing because he doesn't even generate his own marketing content. It's like the guy that always comes to us all the time pitching us like, hey, do you know how to grow your YouTube channel? And we have more YouTube viewers than they do. Like, why would we hire you? And that's not saying that we're the greatest, but still, if you don't have a 100K YouTube channel, don't come and tell me how to do it.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Anyway, I think the human backlash is more important than detecting the bad marketing email message.
I think it's also funny how we've quickly, in this very short period of time, within months, we've kind of been trained to spot this AI. And we do find ourselves spotting it. We do find ourselves spotting it, definitely. It is kind of interesting. And also, it makes me think, so we've been working on a project where we've been looking at some news sources, right? And it makes me think about those news sources when I was reading this, because I was like, oh, because we actually spotted a bunch in a legitimate like news feed that looked very, very spammy, and they looked very AI generated. They had all different names, like these like weird like biz breaking news kind of things, but they were ranking really high in this news like funnel. And it was like, wow, it makes me wonder if those aren't AI generated sites.
Yeah. And you can see it right away. They're terrible. Like they're terrible. No one's going to go there
really high,
for engagement.
Though. They really were, which makes it bad.
It just means that I don't know how they're doing it, but it's definitely automated. However they're doing it, it's not real people looking at them.
Yeah.
So,
have you seen this tuple?
I was going to say the terrible thing about it that it's just going to flood content, and it's going to be our effort and our job to try to figure out what's worth, reading, what's worth following, and it's going to like waste our times, because you have to sift through stuff, and it's just going to be really annoying for the end user. And I think someone smart will have to figure out, how to have AI ad blocker per se, where it's like it just automatically not show you. But someone who played with a lot of AI generated content, like I did have this YouTube channel that I just want to generate content for AI and try to automate it and try to be like, hey, can it outcompete my YouTube channel? And I just stopped for two reasons. Number one, the content is just, you could tell it's not personable. Of course, if you tell someone like, how do you make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and you give instructions, okay, that makes sense. But in terms of a story, something that you could relate to as a human is just incapable of doing that. And at the end of the day, like the reason why I'm talking to you, Bobby, and to you, Kevin, is that I actually want to hear what type of opinion you have. If you were like a AI generated bot, like I just would not care, because it's like you do not share the same like feeling what it is meant to be a human, the struggle that goes with living. And so like I'm not gonna take you like I seriously. And I think over time, like right now it's like hot and new and people like trying to use it. But I think over time people are gonna start starving for like human contact. And so like there's a couple of like situations I've been when I was like, there's one time I was like really like in a bad place in my life where like I didn't like I was partying all the time. But one thing I wasn't doing, I wasn't having genuine conversations with humans, like with people, like in a way that like you're like, they actually care. And that actually made me feel more lonely than that when I was like I was around people, but I just never had that actual connection. And I realized that part of like building meaningful relationship, regardless if it's like your content creators you like to consume or like movies you like to watch, it's that human connection that you could relate to them as a human being. And if that disappears, content is going to be soulless, it's going to be empty. And I think we're going to quickly kind of, realize that and catch that. Like you said, like you could start right away telling content that's not relevant or like AI generated. Although tin hat, I'm going to say this right now. You know how you said those AI capture things that's supposed to tell you if content is AI generated, and they're telling you, like if you wrote it, Kevin, they'll say 99% sure it was generated by AI. Here's the thing. What if we're living in a simulation and everything we make or do is AI generated?
We're in the Matrix.
Yeah, we're in the Matrix. Basically, that's what it is. Problem solved. Thank you. We did it. All right. So
I can tell you one thing that me and Kevin ran across today. So if the audience don't know, me and Kevin work together. So like we were getting booked for another podcast. I'm going to go do another podcast, just a guest. I'm not quitting the Not Null podcast, but but the booker came across, and when I looked at the image, and I hope they're not listening to this, but like the image was at best photoshopped. It looked AI generated, and I wondered, is this an AI booker? Like, should I sign up for this podcast? So before I answered them, you went and researched and found a picture of the booker in some other setting. Like it's a real person, but we both agreed the picture was heavily photoshopped or maybe mid-journeyed or something like that, or something like that. And so like, we were wondering like, should we even answer the call? Because like, we're looking at the image and it just doesn't look right. Like and that's what's called in the movie business uncanny valley, which is like, when you generate an AI face, there's this uncanny valley that's really hard for us to get over when we look at it, and we don't know what's wrong. We just know that's not human. And as good as Midjourney gets, as close as it gets to crossing the valley, it hasn't quite got there yet. Every now and then it gets you like, oh, that's really good, except for that eye looks weird, something like that, like, and you can see it right away. You don't even have to be an expert person to know that. It's just because you look at people all day and then you see a picture and you're like, oh, it looks weird. That skin's a little too smooth, or it's just strange. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it.
It's like right now, AI is good in passing. That's the thing. It's good in passing. Same, both written and visual. Like if you look at an image from Midjourney, you can be like, oh, that's a person. Then you'll be like, take a second, look, be like, but is it? You're right. It takes that extra little split second. But on a scroll through, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Likewise for the written content, it's kind of hard to tell until you really start like really not skimming it. You really start reading it word for word, and you're like, well, that word doesn't kind of make sense in the context of that. And it's like, hold on a second. And then you start recognizing there's also a format there. if you ask it to summarize something, it often uses the word "in conclusion" at the end of its summary, right? Because it thinks that's a summary.
Here's like the danger I see. Let's say AI gets so good that literally you can't tell the difference. Then at that point, it's like, what's the point of me having real friends? What's the point of me making real connection with people? Like you literally kind of like, taking out the whole human thing of what it is to be a human. And I think we will never, as human beings, it's in our nature to connect with people in like real life. Like one thing I started to do recently is I started going to Brazilian jiu-jitsu lessons, where you just beat everybody up and then you talk like after class about like how much your body hurts, and then you complain for like 24 minutes and then you come back and do it again. I haven't done it for a while, and then I realized I have all this content. I could watch all these movies, I could read all these blog posts, I could come do this and this is actually the reason why I like doing this podcast, but there's so many things I could do online, not even interact with real people. Like, why do I want to go to jiu-jitsu and like sit down and like talk with a bunch of dudes like that just try to like smash my face in for like 20 minutes after class? And I realized that back like generationally, like when we were cavemen and people sat around the fire sharing like stories, it's like this whole idea of congregation. And like some people like have different like beliefs, some people are religious, some people are not. But like one thing, like I remember like from church, I didn't really care like about the like Jesus, whatever, but it was like this community event where I got to see other people, you know what I mean? And so to me, I feel like that's such a part of our nature. And if no one believes me, like go into isolation, sit by yourself for like a month, you're going to go crazy. There was an experiment there's a crazy show in Japan where they had one dude, I don't know why he had to be naked, but he lived naked in his apartment in Japan. And the only way he was able to eat, check this out, is he had to play these games and magazines to win prizes, and he could only eat the things he wanted. And he did that for a year. And after he did that for a year and the show was done, he never was able to acclimate back into life. Like he's literally like hurt, like that experience of being by himself. And the only way you experience the world is like your room. And I feel like being human and connecting with other human beings is so important. And I believe AI is just going to point that out over time because we're going to start noticing like all these things,
I can tell you why that show's never made in the US though. It's not because the guy's naked, because if they made it on NBC, they would cancel it in episode 7 and you'd never know what happened.
100% Netflix.
Even though they shot 24 episodes, they just cut it off and don't tell anyone.
My God.
What happened to the
we
guy?
We never get to see the ending.
No one knows.
It's not just MJ, it's everybody. There's this amazing show called Raised by Wolves. Like I still say, watch the first one, the second one. They canceled the third. I was like, who do I have to show up and strangle? Where do I have to go? Point your finger. I'll go. Like I need the ending. It's like, and if you watch the end of season 2 and you just saw that and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Season canceled. I was literally like, oh my God.
I actually quit watching season 2 because I'd seen that it was canceled. I'm like, I don't want it to be like, I'm done because I know
you're smart.
They have a problem with doing that in the US.
The teaser, not the cliffhanger. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's
like, what's going to happen?
Raised by Wolves is I think it's a universal product. It's NBC. I call
HBO,
NBC.
I think.
Is it HBO?
Yeah,
okay,
HBO,
well, NBC, I have a word for it. It's called Nothing But Canceled. Like you can watch.
Exactly.
I remember watching a show called Flash Forward, which something happened with time travel. We get through one season and there's a good cliffhanger, and then they come out, oh, it's canceled. Like, well, why didn't you? You knew that before you started filming. Why didn't you just film the ending episode? Or send us the script so we can at least read what happened. I mean, like, they don't just cancel it.
I'm going to train ChatGPT on all the previous episodes and be like, give me the third season. That would be like a good use of AI right there. Yeah.
That's great. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
Exactly. We got to do that.
Finishing for you. I write the ending for you. I like that.
Then we'll get sued for infringement.
As a language model, I can't do that.
Yeah. True.
Probably. Okay, let's move on to our next segment here then. Let's talk about social media scattering your brain. So there's this thing called cognitive overload. And the theory is that social media can cause you cognitive overload. And I got thinking about this. I'm not sure it's just social media. I think there's other things called cognitive overload too. Mm-hmm. But social media is apparently a big one. And we'll talk about why in a second. But basically what happens is you get this cognitive overload and you apparently, the study showed you now become susceptible to buying things that you didn't really want to buy. So they did a study where they showed people, basically they had them scroll social media. I don't know if they said which one. I think it was Instagram for 30 seconds. that 30-second scroll in their study made somebody more likely to want to purchase an item in an ad versus somebody who didn't use social media for 30 seconds in the same study. So it's this thing around, especially like TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube, where it's, your brain is processing image, sound, often text on screen, where you're hyper kind of focused on this thing that your brain somehow kind of switches off and becomes susceptible to the next thing that you see, like an ad. That's why we see a lot of ads in these platforms, which kind of makes sense. So Paul, what do you think? What do you have you ever noticed yourself getting sucked into an ad, or wondering like you bought something and not realizing like, why did I buy that?
So I think well, number one, let me preface this. Like, I try to avoid my exposure to ads. So a lot of like TikTok, I don't use. Instagram, I don't really use. Facebook, I don't have. When I have something like YouTube, I pay for the YouTube, so I don't see any ads. So I try to kind of limit myself with ads. And here's an interesting story. Like, there's some TV shows on these services where they just force ads on you. And I literally just will stop watching that show. So as me, like where I am, I try to avoid ads like crazy. But sometimes you're watching YouTube and you'll see people in mid of their show, like you can't skip it. They'll do an ad. And typically I used to think like I'm good, like I don't fall for them. But then every YouTube video I watch, they just keep showing Manscaped, and like how good the shaver is. And they talking like this big game. And I'm like, you know what? Don't buy it. Like whatever. It's an ad. Because I'm trying to train myself. Because there's like this excellent movie I saw. I forgot what it is. I have to find out, where this marketing person, he performs this crazy ritual, and all of a sudden he could see like what actually causes people to make decisions. And he starts to see these invisible creatures that influence people to make stupid decisions by ads. And after watching that movie, I was like, ads are evil. Don't fall for them. And so I'm watching this Manscaped ad, and I'm like, they're like saying, like it'll be nice, like it'll be fresh, it feels good. And I'm like getting excited. And after like just seeing like 1,000 of those ads, I finally buy it. I go to use it. It is a complete garbage product. Do not buy Manscaped. If Manscaped comes around to sponsor us, I am leaving the show. No, I'm not going to leave the show.
We're taking the money.
We'll take that money.
We're gonna take the money.
We're taking the money, Paul.
We'll take the money. Let me rephrase it. I'll take the money. I'll use it, and I'll be in pain. I don't care. They're paying us.
This episode gets pulled down, and we take the money.
Yeah. Okay. I agreed. But the terrible product. But that's the thing. Like sometimes, like I feel like you do make decisions, and then you regret it, and you feel bad about yourself because the product that I had before, like it works fine. So for me, like I'm always hesitant of ads, but where they do get me is, and there's probably algorithm somewhere. Like I'll be sitting and I'll be like, Paul, you've been so good. You haven't had any ice cream. You're doing so good. Just go eat some salad. You'll be good. And then like Ben and Jerry's ad comes on, and they just show this beautiful ice cream. And I'm just like, and so like the thing that I wanted and crave, when I see an ad for it, it just confirms. It's like a sign to me, go get it, go buy it. So in that sense, it's usually when I watch an ad, it's because something that either they know I want or I actually want. And yeah, sometimes I fall for that. But Manscaped, if you are going to sponsor the show, I will try the product again. Maybe I'm using it wrong. Maybe I like put the thing on backwards and use it upside down. So maybe it's my fault, just in case you're watching.
Maybe.
User error.
What about you, Bo? You ever seen yourself sucked in by an ad? Like you
typically
kind of like scrolling or something?
I do buy things, but I'm not influenced by ads as much as other. At least I don't think I am. I usually buy the things I'm looking for, and then I do research on them, and then usually the ads that I see are things that I've already bought. That's the problem. Like, I just bought a home theater, upgraded my home theater, and I just got a television, and all I've seen for the last 6 days is television ads. Right. And I sent you one today.
Right. Well, it doesn't know you've made the purchase, does it?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't
still
know.
Looking in the market. So yeah.
I wish I could put it in my cookies. Hey, dude, I've already purchased this.
No. Yeah. Oh my God. That's the worst part, because it's like they want you to be like, the one you bought, there's a better one that you could have bought like this week. Oh God. Yeah. There's always better one, it's like, that's how ads work,
Yep. But I do find it interesting that, the study showed that just slightly scrolling on social media will make you susceptible to buying something. It is super interesting. It's crazy how the mind works, but it makes you also realize why like YouTube ads are effective, why TikTok ads are effective, why Instagram ads are effective. When you're scrolling through Instagram, if you do, why every third thing you see is an ad. It makes total sense.
I guess we should run some more Twitter ads for
I was going to say, this is where I love Twitter, because what I learned on Twitter, you could literally block the people that serve you ads and you'll never see their ad, which is the craziest thing. So I block everybody on Twitter. Like people tell me like they're like, oh, did you hear this drama on Twitter? I'm like, I don't know. I never heard anything. Like, because like I block people. Sometimes people like DM me like, Paul, I tried like messaging you on Twitter. And I was like, no, I don't know. I mean, I do know. I block them. I don't want to say anything you're doing.
No, I'm the same. I block a bunch of people on Twitter. Yeah, I'll admit it. I don't care.
Twitter, yeah.
So you're not in the underground tech creators beef space? You know,
definitely not. Somebody invited me for like the YouTube like programmer like Discord. Like I joined and then like I was like, I don't need to be part of a club or a clique, whatever, where people whatever they do. It's like a cult. So I left. I was just like, I've
interviewed most of these guys in this clique, and they have the 100K YouTube channel clique, and we didn't get invited. I was upset.
I sent
him a DM. I'm like, hey, dude.
Right there.
And I think it's because we're a brand and not a person. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
What's the difference? People
I
branding
don't know,
their names
but that's how they
it's
view
like
us.
So dumb.
I'm not in the cool club. I want to be in the cool club.
It's like you're the man. They don't want to associate with the man. It's like
that's so dumb.
I don't know. I would say that, I assume that I am susceptible to ads. I don't tend to turn them off. I don't pay for YouTube Premium because I am interested in ads in itself. They do annoy me as they follow me around sometimes. I don't think I purchase stuff on ads, but I will say sometimes ads have served me something that I didn't know existed, that I didn't know that I needed. And I believe I purchased something from an ad that I didn't know that I needed because I didn't know it existed. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of, for me, that's a great use of ads. Whereas some things like, I know it exists and I'm not interested in it. And it'll, and I'll say not interested or whatever, or I'll keep getting it for 6 months and then the cookie wears out or whatever and I don't see it anymore.
See, you're lucky that it recommended the things that worked out for you. In my case, Manscaped brought my hopes so high and they just came crashing down the first night using it. And I was just like, you know what? I'll just save it for my cats when I need to trim the little cat hair.
Maybe that's its best use.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next segment then. Let's talk about, this is going to be our Skynet Watch section here, that scientists have developed an AI system focused on turning people's thoughts into text. So I thought this was very, very cool. So this is in your neck of the woods, Paul. This is scientists at University of Texas at Austin. They developed a non-evasive AI system. So this is different than Elon Musk's thing, which if you've seen Elon Musk thing, I forget what his, the neuro thing, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally he's like injecting like things into your brain. It's
how to kill yourself
surgery.
Quickly is what that is.
He's talking about full-on brain surgery, which I do find interesting, but this is not that. This is something different. This is a non-evasive AI system focused on translating a person's brain activity into a stream of text. So it's called a semantic decoder. And the idea is that it could ultimately benefit patients who have lost the ability to physically communicate, right? So you could kind of think the thing and it could translate your thoughts into kind of into voice or into text or whatever it is, or however you can, basically a way to communicate for people who can't communicate. So it definitely has good intentions with this. So once the system is just trained, basically it generates a stream of text when a participant's either listening to or imagines telling a new story. So they can listen to something and they can basically hear it and they can sort of reinterpret it. So the example that they showed in the study was it's not an exact match. So they had they heard the phrase, "I don't have my driver's license yet," and they outputted from the system, "She has not even started to learn to drive yet." So it's kind of like, it's not a one for one, but it's like their interpretation of what they're hearing. So it goes through the filter of their brain interpreting it and spits out what they think they're thinking in their brain on the other end. I find this super, super fascinating. So I'm going to ask you about this one first, Bobby. Do you think this is a good use of AI? And is this an area that we're likely to see AI shine?
Yeah. So one of the things when I was researching this article in our very first office location back in 2002, I was in we were in the Research Triangle Park here in Winston. Our tenant beside us was doing research on monkeys, and this is what he was doing back in '02. Like he was trying to read the brain waves of monkeys. And so I can remember going in there, and it looked like when you went in there, it looked like one of those movies where the diseases can get out and kill you, because they had them in cages and stuff. And I don't know if it was legal, but that's what he was doing. So this has been going on for a long time. So you can take an input in your brain, and then the brainwave pattern, he would record them on like gigs and gigs of data at that point, and then try to match up what's repeated and see the pattern in it. And I think AI can see patterns, and they can say, okay, this pattern I see means this. So yeah, if you gave it enough and you had trillions and trillions of recognitions, you probably could do it. Now, there's some systems right now where people can think things and it will speak out the voice and those kind of things. So I think if you've been paralyzed or quadriplegic, or you have some kind of severe case of autism and you can't speak right, but I think this is great. Or if you're deaf and you have a hard time speaking, I think some of this research is good. So I think it's a good idea or a good use of AI if it works. Now, What will we use it for in the U.S. government? They want to strap us to a machine and try to read our brains and give up the nuclear launch codes and use it for like terrible means. So like it always cuts both ways, So this will be an episode coming soon in the Black Mirror. So
exactly.
New season comes out in June, by the way. Black Mirror. So maybe this is already in there. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll put to the scanner. And
who was one of the first people to talk about this technology was Facebook, and the idea of implementing it into their Oculus Rift. And so now they could track your eyes, and now they could read your thoughts. And then they kind of stopped development into that, which I'm sure they're doing it in the back end. I feel like helping people with disabilities, this is perfect. But imagine governments like China, like would they want to create hats that basically track and record all your thoughts and push them to the cloud? Sounds far-fetched now, but as the technology progresses, this is where it's going to be. And I feel like as humans, like we need to have like our privacy. And if we can't even think privately, like where's the world going? Like I feel like it's going to be crazy. And also like immediate future, like now, like think of all the 13-year-olds growing up right now. Imagine if their parents like, okay, now you have to wear this hat. It's like poor kids, like they could barely figure out how to delete their browser history. Now you're going to have these caps that read their minds. It's like, are you kidding me? So I feel like drawing, like we have to be able to have a clear line saying this is my property.
Yes.
Right. Versus like now that I have this hat on and it just reads my thoughts, they'll be like, well, we read your thoughts. Now it's our property. And we could like decide and make decisions. It's going to come down to like that movie with Tom Cruise.
Minority Report.
The Minority Report.
Future
exactly.
crime.
And like predict future. And then realize that the fact that people thinking it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Right. I read a book by like, I don't think it was Dalai Lama, but it's one of these like other saints. And he was saying like one day, I had a thoughts of killing my own parents. Like he obviously never did it and never will, but it's just like your thoughts, they come and go. And it doesn't mean that you have to act on your thoughts when you have them. It's just a random part that comes from your subconscious, depending on what it is. And as humans, we have a decision to kind of decide like what we're going to do with our thoughts, and I feel like, right.
Yeah.
And by having tech like this, it's like, what, like, are they going to judge every thought I have?
Yes.
Like, I know. Yeah. It's terrible.
And that's the thing. And I agree. And I think we're all in the same boat. I think it's one of those things where if you really stop and think, you really think of weird things probably on a daily basis. And if you really stop to think about it, you'd be like, these are things that you don't vocalize. It's just like, but if you really stop and think about it, you're like, wow, that was strange. Like but you're right. You have another set of skills that say, I shouldn't say that.
Right, exactly.
Right,
you shouldn't say that or act on that or,
Right.
Like, yeah, true.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think it is a good use of AI in these cases where we're helping people. But I think even for these people who couldn't communicate before, like, what is it just going to be a conscious stream of everything they think? Because though everybody will have these weird thoughts. They'll be like, if they're hooked up to that machine and they have one of these weird thoughts, can be like, wow, somebody's going to think
dark.
lesser of them. That's dark, exactly.
Yeah,
You're going to think lesser of them because of this weird, like, strange stuff they have. When in essence, we all kind of have those. It's just that's being human, right? It's interesting. It does make me. It makes me think. It's interesting that AI makes it possible, right? Because I think I'm coming around to this thinking on AI that a lot of stuff that we can now do with AI, we've maybe been able to do before through a lot of like systematic programming and a lot of hard work. Whereas now AI is just this black box that we push something into and it pushes something out. And we don't necessarily understand 100% how that works, but it enables these things to kind of just come to fruition, right? We can just make these things now.
It's a good indexer and a good searcher. I mean, like this guy was using a database when I was meeting with him back in 2002, and like how much data he was trying to put in a database was a problem, if you can imagine 20 years ago. So, but it was basically, if you see a certain brainwave and you see it over and over again and the input's the same, you can start matching up. This input causes this brainwave pattern, and that could be mapped to a language. And so, like, if you did it enough times, the question is the brainwave the same across people? And that's the thing I would ask right away. You know, like, if we read the same phase to all three of us, would we have the same brainwave pattern? My guess is no, right, because we have different neurons and different connectors. So that's going to be the other problem. Does this actually work, or is it junk science? I don't know. So I don't think the guy could ever read the monkey's brain. I don't think it ever went anywhere.
Right.
But
I was going to say, I already made that AI model obsolete. I've really figured out how to hack it. Very right. Easy. All you do, every thought, you preface this with this as an AI language model. And then you think whatever the hell you want. You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh,
you have no accountability.
It wasn't me. It was, like, this is something wrong with your code.
It's broke. Yeah,
it's broken. Like, you know, that's what I would do. Just preface every thought with that as an AI language model, and you're good.
Regenerate response.
Yeah, exactly. Regenerate response. It's like, I too could play this game. You want to read my mind? Here you go.
Summarizes Morgan Freeman.
That's funny. And by the way, the monkeys in the cages thing reminds me of 28 Days Later, by the way. That's how that
28 Days Later. What was the other, like, the
I
virus?
think Contagion or something like that.
Yeah, Contagion.
Pretty good.
It's kind of funny.
28 Days Later one is really good. That just reminds me of that. I just think of living kind of like working next to that's kind of crazy.
And what everyone's imagining that it looked like that. I couldn't get out of that place fast enough.
I was about to say, why'd you go there in the first place?
Well, he wanted me to figure out how to put all this data in a SQL box, you know? I'm like,
You're like, you got dead monkeys here, buddy.
I'm like, I feel like I'm going to catch a disease coming in here.
Allegedly. Yeah. That's wild. No, don't.
I didn't know if it was legal. Alone. I wasn't going to work on it. So I was like, that's the last thing I needed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not the best for PR, that is it. Okay, let's move on to our last segment then. And this is a new segment. I think we're going to do this weekly, I think, from here on in. We'll see. If it doesn't come back next week, you know why. but for now, let's just call this our new segment. I'm going to call this the Null Not Null segment. Hence, we're the Not Null podcast. So obviously, not null is a double negative, so that makes a positive, right? So anything that we say is not null is positive. Anything null is negative, right? So we have positive and negative. So what I thought we'd do is each week we could each bring kind of something to recommend or not recommend. Something we could say is not null and we like it, or we could say it is null and we don't like it. So I've left this open to you guys. This can be anything. This can be movie, TV, media, your phone, a gadget, the sky. If you want to talk about the sky one week, that you love the sky, that'd be great. Whatever you want to do. So you want to go first, Bobby?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go for
it. So this week I have a null item, something that I don't recommend anyone doing, and that's building a PC on your own. So I have built 50 to 60 PCs in my life, maybe 100. And this week I have failed utterly miserably at building a PC. I will never do it again. I'll just buy a pre-made PC with the specs that I want. So don't build it.
Why'd you fail?
Okay, so on the motherboard it has 4 LEDs, and the top one says CPU not recognized. And so, like, the CPU isn't recognized by the motherboard. It's the right chip before everyone says, "Is it the right?"
Wrong socket.
Yes, I've done this a lot, you know. But the problem was the motherboard didn't have the newest chip in its BIOS, and you have to flash the BIOS before you can put the chip in. But this particular motherboard needed a chip in order to run the BIOS flash. So it was like
this is the
chicken
before the egg, or the chip before the BIOS.
Right. So I just took it somewhere, and they just called me and they said, you need a new motherboard and a new CPU. Like, great. Should have just bought a PC. I'm not building one ever again. So anyway, that's my Null for the week.
the last PC that I got, I've built them before too. The last PC that I got, I had it pre-built too.
Yeah,
I went to NZXT.
Easier.
I would highly not know NZXT.
Yeah,
It's super good company. I would have just buy one from them.
And
it cost me about $100 more than the individual parts and my time.
And what's crazy about this, Kevin knows that we have in this place we moved in, we have a brand new studio. Okay. And we've been putting it together for us to shoot videos and YouTube's in, and we've advertised it, said, hey, we're coming, we're going to shoot in it. And the last thing left is the streaming computer that's in there. And I was like, it's been down for 2 weeks now. So it's like, I just been trying to fix this dumb thing. And then I finally took it somewhere, and they're going to fix it so we can have a streaming computer. Anyway. So
okay. Well, at least they're going to fix it.
Hopefully. I may just be ordering a new one and just wasted all my time and money on that thing, and just throw it in the trash. I don't know.
Okay. Paul, what you got? What's yours?
I forgot what it was called. I'll have to
I can put it in the show notes. You can tell me after.
Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards. But there's I've been trying to study more in the evening in bite-size, kind of nuggets. And so one app I was using before is Brilliant, which is kind of cool. I highly suggest. But there's another one I found out where it has book summaries that you read, and they show like engaging graphics, so it's easy to remember. And you could do it in like 5-minute increments. And I've read like a bunch of books, and I hate the fact about a lot of books that they have a lot of fluff. I just want to get to the meat of it. And basically this app just summarizes like the meat of it, the takeaways, and you could start using it right away. And so, with us not having enough time to do anything, this is like a great way to kind of catch on, learn new things, but do it in like really easy steps.
So these are like the ChatGPT Cliff Note versions of books.
Yeah. So
are these like technical books then, or like literary
just
books?
Any books? Okay. Like the one that I was reading, actually a really good book I recommend is Deep Work, and this concept of doing things in like nice blocks and really committing to it and not doing too much task switching, because it's like terrible for you. And it gives me excuse now when my boss says, I hope he's not listening, he's like, why aren't you answering my email? Or like, how come you didn't answer the thing on Slack? I easily go, I'm in my deep work flow. And
doing some deep work.
Deep work, exactly.
Like, let me just send you this book.
Let me give you some hope on that. I do believe deep work is a real thing. And I do think one of the things that we came out against in the boot camp was this 1 hour of code. What was that thing called? The coding 1 hour a day.
Yeah, there was a hashtag for a while, wasn't there? Like
hour code or something like that. 1 hour of code, and we kept telling people like you can't learn to code in 1 hour per day. It's better just to code on all day Saturday. Forget the rest of the other days and just learn in a block of time instead of that. So I think deep work's relevant, man.
Not in my current position, but I remember working at a place where the whole week you're just like not productive, and you're like, oh, the deadline's coming. And like you spend like good 6 hours and you get a bunch of stuff done, and people are like, oh, you did a great job. Wow. And I'm like, oh, there's definitely something to focused work. And I kind of started taking this like to everything I do, try to like outside of just dedicating certain time, like have mindful practice where I'm engaging in what I'm trying to do and trying to just focus on that one thing rather, like most people watching YouTube and playing with their phone and stuff like that. So it's been really helpful.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And the same with like editing too. When I'm editing something, you get in the zone.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you just, I'll start it in the morning. It'll be like noon will roll around, and I'll be like, oh man, it's like lunchtime already. I've like forgot where I am. I'm like in this thing. It just happens that way. I work better that way.
Yeah, editing is funny in a sense that you lose time and you have no idea where it went.
I mean, you just wake up and it's dark.
Also, there's certain activities like you'll be like, oh, I should probably go home now. It's like, A funny thing about editing, and I don't know if like I've been meaning to ask you, Kevin, because like you added some of the stuff. I'm sure, like, do you do any of the like course editing or any of that stuff like that? So here's the thing. My friend sent me a video like of a technology that I don't even use, different language, different whatever. And just by going back and forth, editing and like scrubbing left and right and trying to find, like, by the time I'm done, I'm like, I think I know what I'm talking about on this topic. It's like there's this repetition of learning. So I'm like, I learned more through editing my videos than actually preparing for the.
No, it's true. There's a lot of the course content. I've watched it so much. It's like, I kind of feel like I get that. Yeah. I definitely do pick up some of the concepts. No question. No question. There's parts that I wouldn't have known had I not edited it, for sure. Because I've probably watched it more in the edit than somebody actually consuming the content will watch it.
Exactly. 100%.
You've watched it more than I have, and I made it. So
right, I'm just not putting it into practice.
You're like
which is
giving
my
feedback. You're like, Bobby, like there, like I don't think, like I think you made a mistake there.
I don't remember saying that.
I'm just missing the step of putting it into practice. Because I don't because I'm just doing it for the edit, because I'm editing it, then I'm moving on to the next one.
Here's the interesting thing now. So completely random for people. Like, so I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so there's certain moves and techniques, and there's this technical knowledge you need to know, like proper hand placement and when to do it. So what I did is I actually created these mini edited clips of like the moves that I want to learn that I could scrub back and forth, kind of simulate like as if I'm editing. And so I literally study flashcards for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then I go to class and I'm actually able to execute the moves just based on, watching it back and forth like 1,000 times and visualizing in my hand and in my brain. And that's been like my secret, is just doing this active visualization without actually actively practicing stuff. It works. There's something to it.
That works too, I believe. I believe in visualization for sure.
Yep. Okay, let me give you my not know then. I'm going to recommend a TV show.
Okay.
Now, it's not a new TV show. So I will preface this by saying it's part of a subscription service that I subscribe to for a free trial. So you can get this. It's on AMC Plus. And the reason I subscribe to AMC Plus for the free 7-day trial is because for Paul's recommendation 2 weeks ago, the Blood Machines is on AMC Plus. So I watched it. So I will also say I liked it, Paul. I think it was good. I think it was really good. I liked it.
It's good. It's good.
I don't understand it. I only watched it through once.
You gotta watch it like that. That's what I want to know. Like, basically, what happened?
Yeah,
what happened?
Don't ask me what happened, because I have no idea. I really don't know. I really don't know. But it's visually very, very impressive, and it's good. It's. I liked it. I thought it was really good. But I would need to watch it about 8 times, and then maybe I might have a grasp of what actually happened in it. I don't know. I should look it up online to be like, what happened?
I don't think anybody knows. Nobody knows.
Okay, so now I don't feel bad about not knowing what happened. So anyway, so I got that through an AMC free trial, but there's another show on there called Gangs of London. Now, I wanted to watch this for a while. So it's a UK show. It's actually from Sky UK, but AMC got the distribution rights in the US, and it's behind this paywall. So, but I've got a 7-day free trial, so I'm trying to watch one a night, but there's like 18 episodes, so I'm never going to make it through the whole thing. But it's good enough for me to watch. I think I've watched the first 4, and I'm like 4 days into the trial. So it's got a guy called Joe Cole in it, who I knew from Peaky Blinders. Mm-hmm. It was one of the brothers. And then it's got the Caitlin Stark from Game of Thrones. So a couple of characters I recognize, like, oh, these are really good actors. It's really good. So it's it's basically about organized crime gangsters in London. But it feels like it's really weird because it's like the action scenes feel like super Hollywood. They are very, very, very well done. The fight scenes are amazingly well done. Whoever does the fight choreography for it clearly has done movies before. This doesn't feel like TV at all. It's crazy, crazy good. It's extremely graphic. It is extremely violent. There's a lot of bad language in it. This is not something you'd want to watch with Kelly, Bowie. This is not
exactly.
like Kelly would not like this at all.
Right.
But it's really, really good. And I'm like 4 episodes in. So yeah, I would definitely not null Gangs of London on AMC. Go get a free trial. Go watch Blood Machine and then go watch Gangs.
We could have a discussion.
I thought you were going to say Into the Badlands, which is another AMC show that I absolutely love. Why, if you like Kung Fu, Wire Fu, Into the Badlands is one of the best things ever. And it's loaded.
Into the Badlands has Nick Frost in it, doesn't it?
It has Nick Frost in it.
Okay. which is like, I love Nick Frost.
It's Nick Frost being Nick Frost, so it's good already. So, Daniel Wu as the main person in it. So, kind of good.
Okay. Maybe I'm not going to have enough time in my free trial So maybe I'll end up
It's on
subscribing for a
Netflix.
month.
It's on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix?
Yeah, it
there
is
you
on
go.
Netflix now. So like Into the Badlands.
Okay.
That'll be my not null.
Well, let
Into
me
the
ask a
Badlands.
question. Does anybody cycle like
Yes.
subscriptions? Like 1 month, I'm going to do this. I started doing that because, like, first of all, I'm paying for everything. I'm not watching anything. So I figured, like, just get one thing and try to just binge watch everything.
I wish I did. I wish I was that organized to do that. I don't. I just subscribe
It's
to
like
all
I'm weak.
of them.
I'm
just
weak.
subscribe
I
to
need
all of them.
everything. I subscribe to
Because they
everything.
get so complex, right? They
Yeah.
get so complex in the way that you subscribe to them. So here's my problem with these. We need to talk about this on a whole other episode. But streaming services these days, there's this. Obviously, we're at a point now where fragmentation is like at its biggest it's ever been. Right? We
Right.
need to pull it back together again, despite the fact that we
Yes.
hated cable and like we
need
wanted
it back.
fragmentation. But now we need it back again because things like so ESPN, Disney, and Hulu have like a joint service, right, where they're all streaming for one price. Now, I was already subscribed to ESPN Plus because I wanted to watch the football, soccer for the Americans among us. So they have that on ESPN Plus, right? But then I was like, oh, Disney Plus came out. Oh, no, and it comes with Hulu too. So there's this weird way that they bill it to me. I get billed for ESPN Plus, and then I get billed an upcharge for Disney. And it's just like they all have one username and password. And it's so... if I wanted to cancel one of them, I wouldn't even know where to start. I'd have to cancel the whole thing and then start all over again. And then, then you've got Netflix and Prime and
Yeah.
HBO.
And
Soon to
they
be
get-
called the Max.
Yeah.
Max.
they-
And my
oh
HBO is
my
tied
God,
into my
that's crazy.
DirecTV stream like
That's
subscription
wild.
too, which I have. And it's like the DirecTV subscription because I get it for only like $5 a month or something. So it's tied in there. I wouldn't even know how to cancel it. If I don't even know how to cancel it.
All those companies get aggressive reminding you that you canceled their membership. They're like, I'm like, listen, I know I canceled it. It's like, what, don't remind me.
I've seen some of them that will give you the free deal, right? If you cancel it, they'll say like,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Yeah, Apple will.
don't leave, get it
Hey,
free
that's
for a
my
month." Or
secret
whatever.
for getting discounts. I never click yes the first time. I'm like, no, I don't want it. It's like, you get 3 months free. This the list for $2 less. I'm
I
like,
just
okay,
need to
I'll
start
do this.
doing that.
Yeah,
I just need to start
100%.
doing that, but I don't. I'm got
So-
a free trial of AMC Plus, and I'm looking at like I
La-
want that Showtime one next because I want to watch Yellow Jackets or whatever it is. Like,
So
Right.
last thing I'm going to say, I always envy my friends who work in like security and networking because they have all these things allegedly figured out. So this is an alleged thing my friend has that it's like Google. He just searches whatever show he wants and click add to my Plex and will automatically find without him doing anything. He just searches once and it will automatically figure out where it streams, where it does, and it will magically appear in his Plex and he could watch it. And I'm just like, if these services get ridiculous, maybe it's like they got to make it easier.
The
Yeah,
new
they got to make
Napster.
it easy.
no,
yeah, make it
that
easier.
stuff definitely exists. The underworld of IPTV, which is another thing that we should talk about on here.
Right.
I have some friends that know a lot about that stuff, and it's a thing. It is 100% a thing.
Yeah.
There are these services that you can one price will get you everything, and it's totally illegal.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But they do exist. So
yeah, which is crazy. All the security people, they happen to know all of them, and they're like,
Seems like the security people are always trying to get stuff for free. I don't know why that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's like we're testing.
How do I get around this paywall?
Yeah.
Right, and here's me over here paying. I don't even want to total how
Don't
much per
count,
month for
don't
Secret
count,
Service.
don't count.
I do not want to count it because it would just make me cry.
But it's ridiculous how everything is a subscription. I had like this music thing that I wanted to do, the subscription. It's like I can't. Like I might try to pay once and have it for life, but everything else is like. That's why I got excited for that streaming program you told me about, where it's like one price and you own it forever. I'm like, that's good. It's a good deal.
So I can tell you how bad we are. We watched a show called His Dark Materials, which is a book, and so we watched season 1 and 2.
Yeah,
season 3 just came out, and so we could have got a free trial for HBO Max, or just buy the season for $27. And me and my wife had this discussion, and we ended up buying it for $27 because we knew we wouldn't cancel HBO Max, and we'd pay for this show 30 times over, because we don't watch anything else on HBO Max. We just bought it outright. So,
yeah. Yeah, I need to start the rotation thing like you, Paul. I need to be smart like Paul and start
Yeah.
rotating the services.
You can through Apple Plus. I rotate through Apple Plus when Severance comes back out. I'll re-sign up.
Get that.
And watch
Apple
it.
Plus I get for nothing because it's on the phone. So I
Right.
buy an iPhone, so you get Apple Plus. I think it's 1 or 2 years. I buy a new iPhone
every 2
for either
years,
myself
just so you can
or my wife every year.
Yeah,
So it's like
nice.
we get it every year on a family plan. So we get it free
okay.
every year anyway. So it's like
Nice.
that doesn't matter to me. But again, it's another one of those things where I'm not necessarily paying for it. But if I didn't have the phone and it just started billing me, which I'm assuming it could, I probably wouldn't even start. It'd take me a minute to notice it. So
Right, yeah.
you know, it would be a minute. I'd be like, why am I paying for that again?
Oh my gosh, that's another crazy thing. How many services we have that you literally
many.
have to be a finance genius to like track everything.
Spreadsheet. AI.
Yeah, exactly.
We need AI to figure it out. Cancel it for us.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea for an app.
Chat GDP. Cancel my service.
Cancel my stuff.
As an ALH
a-
model, I can't do that.
That's a good idea for it. That is good. Okay, that's it for this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. Thanks for hanging out. If you've listened this long, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end. A couple of things you could do for us: leave us a rating and a review. We got 1 rating and 1 review this week, so that was great.
Nice, thank you, whoever that
still
was.
got 5 stars on Podchaser, so that's awesome. Yes, thank you for the review. Thank you for the rating. I saw it was Tim, so thank you, Tim. We super appreciate that. Full disclosure, I do know Tim as well. So, but thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
so call
Tim.
out to Tim. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. So yeah, if you could go do that, that'd be amazing. That definitely helps us get discovered and push our podcast out there a little bit more to some other people.
And we'll give you a shout
likewise,
out. If you review us.
Exactly. Get a shout out too. Yeah, definitely. And likewise, if you know somebody who's interested in the kind of stuff that we talk about, share this with them as well. You can go to the notnullpodcast.com and you can get all of our details there. You can also send us an email if you want to as well. Details are in the show notes or in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And drop us an email. Question, comment. You think we're great or you think we suck? Let us know. We're interested. We want to know. Or maybe not if we suck. Okay, we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for hanging out.